Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the Intergalactic Space Arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room, where I have the Game Boy Color, which is like the regular Game Boy, except it's pink. A lot smaller, and it's in color. So it plays Game Boy Color games. Well, you can hit people with this. As you trade off, kids, less striking power, but more color. Here's a look at the original Game Boy, which, by the time the Game Boy Color came out, had dominated the market with just black and white. So just imagine how the world changed when Nintendo added some much-needed color to the Game Boy, with the Game Boy Color. Competing against handhelds that had been doing it for years, like the Atari Lynx and Sega Game Gear. But Nintendo did it better, with a superior screen and backwards compatibility with a monstrous library of original Game Boy games. Like the Game Boy Pocket, the Game Boy Color comes in a variety of colors, seen here in pink see-through or whatever. We have a thing for pink handhelds at Classic Game Room, usually because they're the cheapest. Here's a close-up look where you can see that the Game Boy Color retains the original Game Boy layout with a nice D-pad, select, start, A and B buttons, and speaker in the bottom right. When you can see through, you can witness the magic taking place inside. This has a Game Boy extension cable port, volume control, and infrared communications thing for a Pokemon game, I think. It also has a headphone jack and works on 2 AA batteries, but only if they're from Radio Shack. The Game Boy Color is a comfortable handheld with a great screen and color. There's also a massive software library available for it, filled with great games like Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, seen here. But it's not backlit, which improves battery life but makes it very difficult to play in the dark. So games like Donkey Kong Country look great, provided you have enough light to see it. But there's no question the Game Boy Color's screen is miles ahead of the Game Gear and the Atari Lynx. It's a newer handheld by the late 90s, screens had improved a lot, this thing is pretty reliable, and I like the size of it too. It's very similar to the Game Boy Pocket, which has a larger screen, but that one doesn't play color. The Game Boy Color plays color, and in some cases, adds color to old school Game Boy games, like Street Fighter 2. It doesn't make it any better, it just gives it a bit of color. And the screen is better than the original Game Boy, there's no question there. So if you already have a library of original Game Boy games, this thing is a nice investment because it's better than the original Game Boy in just about every way, except when it comes to hitting people. Hey Derek, it's payback time!
What is that, a Game Boy Color? It's like getting hit with a deck of cards. It doesn't even hurt. You gotta do better than that.
I'm pleased to report that it does not play Gamecom games, but it does play all of this. And there's no region encoding, so it plays import games as well. Which opens up a world of giant robots, puppies, and hamsters, and this box even indicates that this Game Boy Color game will not play on the old sucky Game Boy. Sorry, time to upgrade. And enjoy puppies in color. Did someone just throw that dog a dead Pokemon? I don't know how to play this game. And I can't read the instructions because they're in Japanese. And Mark's an idiot. I have discovered this does not work with Sega 32X games, such as Shadow Squadron, but it will play this game with giant robots that I also can't read. Hey, it's Bomberman in color. What game is this? It looks fun. If only I could figure out how to play it. But I know how to play Godzilla for the Game Boy. In color. Sort of color. On the Game Boy Color. Do I recommend one these days? Well, Now you have the option of the Game Boy Advance SP, which does pretty much all the same things. Plays old Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance SP in color with a backlit screen. But the Game Boy Color is a solid handheld, there's no question. But it doesn't play Truxton, proving once again that Sega does what Nintendo don't. But Nintendo did make a better handheld game system. Not all the games are good, but hey, at least it's better than having a Gamecom, right? Hey, Derek.
Oh God, what?
I'm really sorry I tried to hit you earlier with the Game Boy Color.
Oh, it's very nice of you, Mark.
I'd like to give you a present.
Oh!
A gift.
Really? Wow, thanks, Mark. That's really touching.
So shut your eyes and hold out your hands.
Okay.
It's a surprise.
Oh, I'm excited. What?
You'll love it. It's the best thing ever.
Oh, this is really nice, Mark. You know,
You'll love it.
this
go.
makes up for all the good. Ah!
I've become immune to its power.